Councilman Hadley.
Here.
Councilman Lawrence.
And then we'll stand for the pledge.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this allowing us to come out today in your name, Lord. Lord, give us the wisdom, not understanding to disagree to agree, Lord. In your name we pray, Lord. Bless everyone with sick and shut in their name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You have received the minutes from the last month's meeting. Do we have any corrections, or do we have a motion?
Motion that be approved.
Second. Motion and a second to approve last month's minutes. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, like sign. Thank you. Let's see, report from the administrative committee.
Council discussed a resolution from Municipal Gas Authority of Georgia to appoint City Manager Bennett Adams as the city's voting delegate and Jeff Hayward, Gas Superintendent, to be appointed as the alternate voting delegate. The Administrative Committee recommends approval of the resolution and authorizes the mayor to sign. This is in the form of a motion. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to name Bennett Adams as voting delegate and Jeff Hayward as alternate voting delegate to MGAG. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed? It passes. Thank you.
Council discussed the ballot for the election of GMA's District 10 officers for 2012-2013. The Administrative Committee recommends approval of the ballot as presented and authorizes the mayor to sign. This is a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to cast a ballot in GMA's District 10 election for officers for 2012 and 2013. I will mention that the officers would be President Annette Mormon, Mayor of Baconton, First Vice President Dorothy Hubbard, Mayor of Albany, Second Vice President Danny Palmer, Councilmember of Camilla, and Third Vice President Roy Campbell, Councilmember in Thomasville. Do we have any discussion? All in favor of casting the ballot for these, please raise your hand. Okay, like sign, opposed, and that passes. Thank you.
Council discussed an amendment to the MetLife 401A Defined Contribution Plan Adoption Agreement. This amendment will allow the city to match up to 1% of the gross salary of employees with 5 years of service that participate in the MetLife 457 Deferred Compensation Plan. The Administrative Committee recommends approval of the amendment to become effective July 1, 2012, and authorize the mayor to sign the adoption agreement. This is a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt an amendment to the MetLife 401 Defined Contribution Adoption Agreement. City Manager, would you give us a brief overview of what we're talking about?
Well, Mayor, we have approximately 35 employees out of our 90 total that are participating in the MetLife 457 Deferred Comp Plan. This will, the approval of the MetLife 401A Defined Contribution Plan will allow those 35 employees, as well as any other employees that choose to participate in the 457 plan, to receive a match of 1%, up to 1% of their gross salary each year, to encourage them to participate in the 457 plan.
Okay, so we have 35 or so now making contributions to the defined plan. If this goes into effect, they would continue doing that, but we would match, the city would match up to 1% of what they're making.
That's correct. And this will also hopefully encourage the other employees of the city to take the 457 plan.
How many employees do we have at this time?
Approximately 90.
Well, obviously it should be a good incentive for them to start saving, because we hope they will do that, because there will be retirement at some point. And this will be a good way, a good incentive for them to get a start, however small it may be. Any other questions or discussion about this? All in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. All opposed, like sign, and it passes as well. Thank you.
During the last session, the General Assembly amended the Open Records and Open Meetings Act. City Manager Adams suggested that City Clerk Kathy Baker be designated as the records custodian or officer for the city. Council also discussed a form to be used for record requests. The Administrative Committee recommends approval to designate City Clerk Baker as the city's officer and adopt the form for request. This is a motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to name Kathy Baker, our city clerk, as the custodian for records, and be the person designated to take requests for open record requests. We also have our city attorney here who is going to give us some updates on the open record laws as it affects us, and then we can discuss from there.
It was pretty much a rewrite of the thing, and there's some good things and some not so good things. Most laws that they work on for cities and counties and school boards do. I just came directly from Macon here, really, was at the state school board attorneys meeting. This was probably the major topic of discussion, but they added some definition to what the word gathering of a quorum. Anytime you have a quorum and you intend to speak about anything related to the city, whether you discuss or vote on it, that's a quorum, and you're supposed to have notice and give the press an opportunity and others an opportunity to go there. But there's always been some debate about what happens if the city buys a table at the Chamber of Commerce and you all sit together. Is that a meeting? Or you probably had these questions before. If you all go to GMA and you ride together, is that a meeting? That's not a meeting, but you're not supposed to talk about the city business either. So if you all ride in the car, be careful about that. And you're not supposed to have those kinds of gatherings with the intended purpose of subverting the act. So that's not that much different. It's a little more definition and probably pretty helpful to us. Obviously, all votes now, we've always recorded them here, is my recollection, but law says that you've got to write everybody's name down who voted for and who voted against things. Not everybody done that, so that's important too, and of course those things apply to any committee that might meet, and when there's a quorum of the committee, just as if the whole council was sitting as a committee of the whole, even though they can't actually do anything. All they can do is recommend. It's still a meeting. Interesting, they did something with executive sessions, and the reason I sent this on from the ACCG, they were a little bit ahead of the GMA. It's effective now. They were quite proud of this apparently, and almost as the General Assembly was leaving town, the governor was trumpeting this and signing it. So when we have an executive session now, we have to keep minutes of it. We hadn't done that in the past. Now the minutes are not discoverable, or they're not available to the public and the press. And Kathy, you'll have to keep those minutes in a safe spot, and they're only available for an in-camera, which is in chambers, review by a judge. So other than that, they remain private. Okay. So that's a pretty big difference there. They increased the penalty from $500 to $1,000, and if you have multiple violations, to $2,500. You've already dealt with the records retention part because you appointed her, and that's important. There is a records retention schedule that Kathy already knows about it. Some of you may not, but it's a schedule that's promulgated by the state, maintained by the Secretary of State's office, that tells you how long you have to keep certain kinds of records. We talked about a record this afternoon has to be kept for 15 years. I don't know that anybody in the city can find 15 years ago, frankly, yes. But anyway, that's what it is, and you, do you have that schedule?
I do have the
Okay,
schedule.
good, great. The 3-day business about records is interesting. I think it's great that you have a form, and the penalties don't attach until the form or the written request hits the custodian of the records. But that doesn't mean that if you get an oral request, you don't have to respond. You just can't, there's no penalties about it. Now, exactly what that means, none of the lawyers there could quite tell, but anyway, that's what it says. The Authority Board of Education is bad to use emails, and they address that. I don't know if y'all use emails to communicate with each other or not, but probably don't, not many people do. But if you do use emails, they said that's not a meeting. You know, you can put 4 or 5 people on there and all be talking at the same time. That's not a meeting. But the email itself is a record. And so if you email the mayor, even about city business, even if you're emailing them from on your private equipment, your private computer, that becomes a record that is retrievable under the Open Records Act. So be careful about that. There are some things that we're gonna have to redact, like cell phone numbers and personal information, that kind of thing. Most of it was already redactable, but I don't think the cell phones was, but it must be redacted now. And once again, they increase the penalties there as well. Now, one of the big differences, I don't really think it's a big financial difference, but we used to charge 25 cents a page. We can now only charge 10 cents a page. And the code was absent about whether you could get the money up front. And so I took that to my personal Tommy Coleman interpretation, that I asked people for the money up front before we got it up. That isn't right now. I mean, you don't get it up front, but the second one, if you haven't paid the first one, you can retrieve it before you comply with the request. You know, if you get a request over $25, you have to tell them in advance. You don't get many requests here for $25, but we get some requests. So you got, before you comply with that, you're supposed to tell the requester, and you can get reimbursed in advance if it's 500 or more, which I expect that we have never had one for 500, but some places do. There are lots of little quirks in it, Mayor. It's going to take some months for everybody to kind of figure it out, and so, but those are the high points.
Okay. Well, we know they're there, and so when we've got some idea, we've got some printouts here of what they are, so we can be looking at them ourselves and have an idea of what we can and cannot do. But one thing we can do is we can name Kathy Baker as our custodian, and that's what the motion and second is about. And so if we have no further discussion on that, all in favor of naming, excuse me, okay,
question.
Jamie?
About this administrative fee. It says this fee represents the hourly rate of the lowest paid full-time employee.
Right.
Can you explain that to me?
That's not new. That's always been in there. And if you have a record request, the person who is the lowest paid person who is capable of performing the request, you can charge their time to retrieve the documents and make them available, less 15 minutes. So a requestor gets the first 15 minutes free, but if, let's say, I'm sure you've got things in storage and places, let's say she had to go up there and go through boxes and stuff, you can charge for that time. And we also talked about today, people ask, can you charge when somebody doesn't want the record, they just want to see them? And what I do, and what we all agreed today, was if Camilla Enterprise wanted to look over a certain transaction, and it might take 2 or 3 hours, that you can have that person just sitting there with them and charge for their time for them to just look over it, even though they didn't request the records.
Any other questions? All in favor of the motion, then raise your hand. Opposed, like sign, and that passes as well. Thank you.
That's right.
City Manager Adams discussed the lease purchase agreement for the sale of McCree Hall to the Regional Commission and an intergovernmental agreement between the Development Authority and the city. Manager Adams also discussed paying off the outstanding loans on McCree Hall. The Administrative Committee recommends approval of the lease purchase agreement, the intergovernmental agreement, and pay off outstanding loans for McCree Hall, and authorizes the mayor to sign documents. This is a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve lease purchase agreements and with the Development Authority and pay off the loan for McCree Hall. Bennett, you want to walk us through this a little bit?
I will, Mayor. The total of the existing loans on McCree Hall, which is owned by the Development Authority, the city of Camilla, is $273,174. The exact amount is going to be a little less than that, but we won't know until we actually pay the loan off on that date as to the actual payoff. So, if you would like to make the motion to read not more than that amount, that would be probably appropriate in this case. The intergovernmental agreement is actually between the city of Camilla and the Development Authority of the city of Camilla, and that will be the document that will ensure that the funds that are paid to the Development Authority of the city of Camilla will be passed through to the city of Camilla to recoup these expenditures that are being made. The lease agreement will actually be between the Development Authority of the city of Camilla and the Southwest Georgia Regional Commission. And of course, this is, all these documents involve the lease of McCree Hall by the Regional Commission from the Development Authority.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
Mayor, by way of disclosure, I also represent the Regional Commission. And we didn't get this till Friday afternoon, so with the council commission, y'all should approve this, but there could be some tweaking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all right.
Do I hear an amendment, well, an adjustment, let's say, to the motion to spend not more than $273,174? Ms. Smith, is that satisfactory? Okay, right? Okay. Not more than $273,174.
Okay.
That's the three
The three
outstanding loans.
Yeah.
Okay, we ready to vote?
I have a question.
Okay.
At one time we discussed about the RDC getting an inspection done. Has this been completed?
They are in the process of getting inspections done. They have had the electrical and heating and air inspected. We've actually made some minor upgrades that were necessary. As far as structural integrity, we are going to know some things that have to be done. But as far as the heating and air and the electrical system, those things have been, the inspections have been completed.
So basically, we are on the verge of being ready to go. Just as soon as they can look at the lease.
Not sure when they meet, but, yeah,
The
they're,
last Thursday in the month.
is that what it is? I need to approve it.
Okay.
I think they have a hard enough time getting a quorum at a regular meeting without calling a special one.
Yeah. Okay, but we need to work on our end of it, and then we'll see what they come up with on their end of it. Any other questions? All in favor then of approving the lease agreements and the payoff of the three loans, raise your hand.
I need to abstain because being chairman of the Development Authority.
Okay, so the vote is 5, 0, and 1. Thank you.
Council reviewed the proposed changes to the new personnel policy handbook. Some of the changes are as follows. Number one, employees that have completed 20 years or more of service earn 12 hours per month or 144 hours per year for annual leave. Employees 20 years or more service may accumulate up to 200 hours annual leave. The present personnel handbook read must complete 21 years. All eligible employees may accumulate up to 808 hours of sick leave. The present personnel handbook read 720 hours sick leave. Number three, extend funeral leave for immediate family members to 24 hours leave. The present personnel handbook read 16 hours funeral leave. Comp time will be removed from the new personnel handbook with all hourly employees to be paid overtime. Number five, remove the extension of accumulated annual leave from the new personnel handbook. Six, remove buying back annual leave from the new personnel handbook. These are the most important changes. The administrative committee recommends approval and adoption of the changes for the new personnel handbook to become effective June 1, 2012. This is a motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt changes or recommendations to the current personnel handbook. City Manager, you have a couple of comments on this, I believe.
I do, Mayor. During the work session, which I thought the city council had a very good session of looking over the proposed handbook. We had Renee Brazil, our human resources person, was here. Had a lot of questions and a lot of good conversation about it. Hopefully answer most of the questions. I guess one of the issues that seemed to linger after the meeting was the increasing of the accumulation of hours of sick leave from 720 to 880 hours. I've presented the council members that had a question about that with some information. I asked Renee the next day to survey. We surveyed about 35 different governments and found that there is no magic number, which I already knew that before we started talking. Probably half the group that surveyed allow accumulation of more than 880 hours. Some have accumulation limits that are much less, but they have things that reasons for having those greatly reduced numbers. In the interest of trying to get this approved and doing so with the support of all the council members, I'd recommend that we leave the 720 hours of accumulated sick leave in place and not increase it 880 hours. I've discussed that with Renee Brazil, our HR director, who was part, I guess, instrumental in leading our personnel committee, which has spent a year and a half on this to get to the point where we are. And also it's been reviewed by the regional commission, reviewed by Mr. Coleman and others. And I would just like to suggest that you know, like I said, in the interest of having total support for the changes, reducing the number of accumulated sick leave hours to 720, which is pretty generous. It's 90 days. You can accumulate up to 90 days, which is when long-term disability would kick in, which is provided by the city.
Well, I don't think there's any amendment. We simply go with your recommendation, or if can discuss it if we like. It just remains, we'll take that out as a change. And so the current hours, which are 720, will remain in effect. Do we have any discussion we want to add to that? All right, we'll take number 2 out of the recommendations for changes, and we'll vote on the others. All in favor of the adoption of the new personnel handbook as we see it amended in this, raise your hand. opposed, like sign, and it passes unanimously. Thank you. I believe that's all of our administrative report. Our Public Works Committee report.
Public Works. City Man Adams discussed stormwater drainage improvement project to correct the drainage problem on Emmett Street. On May 9th, 2012, Carter and Sloop Engineer received 3 bids to close this project. Hatcher Tractor Services submitted the lowest bid with $18,497. City Manager and Carter and Sloop recommend that the council accept this bid of $18,497 submitted by Hatcher Tractor Services. This is in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to allow Hatcher Tractor Service with a low bid of $18,497 to do storm drainage improvements on Inman Street. You want to fill us in a little bit on this?
I will, Mayor Twitty, this issue was brought to my attention several months ago by Councilwoman Willingham. I asked our consulting engineers, I went over to look at it, and she was correct. We do have a drainage issue there. Carter and Sloop looked at it and did a design, which I think the council looked at during the work session, that will hopefully remedy this problem. We had an estimate of the job cost from Carter and Sloop of $19,545, which was also supplied to the, and a breakdown of the different materials that would be involved and tasks involved in completing this project. And as Councilman Hadley read, the bid is $18,497.
Okay.
Our recommendation is to accept it. We can use stormwater utility revenue to completely fund this project.
Okay. Any other discussion or comments?
I just got one. Will we let them know before we start? Cause I know it's gonna be some kind of issue in getting in and out that little bit of narrow street.
Well,
I mean, let citizens know ahead of time.
we'll certainly try to do that. Because of the location of the project, it's not like if it was in the middle of the street or actually closer to, I think that's Palmer.
Palmer Street.
It would really be a problem.
Yeah.
They can probably do the work in such a manner that it will minimize
Go around the back of the
the
school.
problem, in maybe laying part of it and covering it up, at least on a temporary basis, so there'll be a way to go in and turn around and come back
Okay.
out. But we'll certainly make an attempt to maybe get some flyers and put them in, door hangers or something like that, let them know the project's gonna be starting.
At least be as expeditious and courteous of their needs as well as we proceed with it.
Was there an estimated start date on that project?
They are, the contractors are all anxious to, it's a small project. I was surprised that, sometimes a smaller project can actually be more expensive because of the scale involved. But we got a good bid on it. We're fortunate to get 3 from reputable good contractors, and I think they're pretty much ready to go. Hatcher Tractor Service is actually on site at the airport now, working on they're doing site work for our T-hanger project. So
Okay.
I can't tell you exactly when, but they're ready to go. I think it'll be within the next probably couple of weeks at least.
Okay, any other questions, comments? All in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, like sign, and it passes. Thank you.
Number 2, Mayor Adams discussed the brickwork project to be performed on Broad Street. This project will begin at the intersection of Honey and Broad and go to the depot. This will be the sidewalk location on the north side of Broad. Manager Allen has bid for the council to to review at this time?
I really don't have anything I want to present to the council at this point. This project has gotten a little more involved and expensive than we had originally discussed. Hopefully I'll have information put together at the June work session. You know, we were trying to move this along, and I apologize for not mentioning that today when we were talking. We are going to have the contractor standard construction that did the sidewalk work originally come and look at the problems we're having with the sidewalk, and hopefully we'll be able to work something out with them to make the sidewalk, correct the issue, the problems we're having at a reasonable cost. The cost on, you know, like I said, it just, the price was, I thought it was gonna be, and really our Chad Griffin, who's pretty good, which Carter Sloop and I both were surprised at the bids that we were receiving back, and I just, if you could just, I'd like to ask the council just to take that off the agenda until next month, because it's really not quite ready to be considered.
Okay. All right, we'll just hang on to that until next month then. Let's see. I believe that's all the report for the Public Works Committee. City Attorney, do you have anything further?
No, thank you, Mayor.
City Manager?
A couple of things, Mayor. One, I think I reported that a letter had been sent to the Board of Commissioners asking for them to allow the inmate construction crew to be made available to assist with the repairs at the Cree Hall. We have received a response back from the interim county administrator saying that that construction crew will not be available because of previous commitments that they made. And that, I mean, we'll move forward. We'll get some bids from local contractors and continue to move forward with that project. Everybody, all the council members got a copy of our citizen satisfaction survey during the work session, and we discussed that also in some detail. Unless there are additional comments on this, I'm going to give the Valdosta State folks a green light to move forward with printing the survey and doing the mail outs. And while we have the television here, I'd like to say this is a citizen satisfaction survey that's going to be sent to 20% of our electric customers as people are randomly sampled. Valdosta State University is going to handle this project for us. If you are one of the lucky people selected in the lottery, you will be receiving a survey in an envelope that's from Valdosta State University. When you get it, don't throw it away. It's not Valdosta State asking for money, it's our survey. Fill it out. It's got about 80 questions. It asks questions about all of the city services that are being provided to our citizens who are our customers. It's really a customer satisfaction survey in a sense. And this information will be, when it's returned, will be compiled by the Valdosta State University professors that are doing this, and they will actually come to a council work session and present their findings, and those findings will be used to, in the future, make management decisions, both by department heads, city manager, and city council, to try to improve weaknesses that might be noted in the survey. And this will be something that will be done every 2 years to see if our report card changes on the services that hopefully we won't have any, but if we do have services that show a weakness or a need for change, then we'll certainly do that and see how we rank in the future. Also, would like to thank all the employees, all the city employees involved in getting the city ready for the Nat Days Festival. I've received a number of compliments on how the city looked, as was a lot of hard work involved in that. I've also received some comments about the fact that we had several city departments actively engaged in the festival. The police department gave away some bicycles at the bike race, which was sponsored by CNS, and they had a booth there at the festival. The fire department had our ladder truck there, and all the firemen who were on that particular shift were there for a good part of the day, trying to let people know what we were doing, and in the fire department, and showing off our ladder truck. Another thing I'm sure of great interest to the councilmen and citizens, the general contractor for Walmart actually came in City Hall today and started pulling permits. They're going to be beginning construction. You'll probably see the walls going up sometime in July, and they're looking at an opening date sometime in mid-January of 2013. Last thing I'd like to bring up and remind citizens watching on television and also the city council members is we do have a citywide curfew for minors. We're going to have some information on the scroll about that, reminding parents that we do have a curfew from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. for minors. There are also copies of the curfew regulations available here in the city, both in customer services and in the city manager's office, if anyone would want to come by and get a copy of those.
Did I hear you say 11 a.m. to 5 p.m.?
11 to 6, I'm sorry.
11 p.m.
11
Oh,
p.m.
I'm sorry, 11 p.m.
So they can't go out.
It's over 11.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it stop that.
You have a PMs.
Yeah, 11 p.m. But we had an incident recently where there was some curfew violations, and several things could have been done differently to prevent those violations from occurring. And I'm in the process of getting in touch with the owner of the business that was involved, and also talking with the police department about how they handle that. And just wanted to remind parents and guardians that there is a curfew in place.
You give age?
What do y'all consider a minor? 17 and under?
17 and under. 17 and under. 17 and under.
17 and under. That completes my report, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Under mayor's announcements, I don't really have an announcement, but I just want to thank everyone. Ben has something else here, but I want to thank everyone for coming out for Nat Days, and for anyone who participated in Nat Days and worked. We thank you for your volunteerism and promoting the city of Camilla. It was a very good weekend. Friday night race had almost double what we had last year, and as I understand, it was more than we've had in years.
Probably ever.
Ever. It was fantastic, and then the dance and the concert on Saturday night was extremely well attended, and it was a diverse crowd out there, and it was good to see, and folks got along famously, and even a few folks danced. Yours truly did not, but it was a good night. We had good weather, and it was a very good evening. Councilman Hadley was out there. I think he was promoting folks dancing, but I didn't see him shaking a leg either.
One time.
But it was a good night, and so the citizens of Camilla and the volunteers can be proud that they have shown off the city in a good light, and we hope to have more of those kind of events in the coming months, and so I'll be looking forward to that. That's all I have. Do we have any citizens that have a question or a comment?
Good evening. My name is Gwyneth Hicks, and I live at 95 Lincoln Street. I have two things I want to address this evening, and one of them is earlier you were talking about the storm drain, and you've already started the process of clearing up some of the areas in the city that we have that are hit hard when it rains hard. And I just wanna know, how do you go about determining which ones to start first, the priority of these streets that need to have some drainage, improvement done?
City manager?
Well, Ms. Hicks, what, the Inman Street project was one that was obvious when you have heavy rainfalls. That was one that was easily corrected, we think. We are in the process of looking at all of our stormwater drainage system. And there is actually a study that was done several years ago. And there's a list of projects that are in place, and I don't have the list, but I'll be glad to get them for you.
Well,
If you have an area, if you think Beacon Street is an area that needs to be considered, I'll certainly put that on the list.
I'm not here for Beacon Street, I'm here for Lincoln Street. I attended a meeting at the depot when they had the engineers to come down with a big chart and a map with all of the streets that had problems. And I was told at that meeting at that time that so much money had already been allotted for Lincoln Street. And I assume that you're now in the process of starting to clear up, the problem. And I was just wondering, because I was here about maybe 3-4 years ago with the complaint about how the water is backing up in my yard. And we had one of the Councilman Kelson, when he was on the committee, came out to see just what was happening. I did have a drain just before you get to my driveway on Lincoln Street. The city closed off that drain, and when Mr. Carroll had his chapel bill, they moved the drain down in front of his establishment. So, but the water don't get a chance to go down to his establishment because it all comes off into my yard. And the water, we found out, is coming not only from Stevenson Street, it's coming from Broad Street, because there's a down slope going down Lincoln Street. And the water runs down there, and when it gets to my yard, it comes over my driveway, all around the front of my house, and there's literally a pond there, especially on the heavy rains. And the mosquitoes are gigantic, and they're big, and they're a nuisance. The city did one year when it rained real hard, they came out and put sandbags across my driveway. And then they also put a pump in my yard to pump the water out. When it rains hard, it's a mess around my house. Plus the fact I showed them where, when they put the gutters on the chapel next door to me, the drains are coming out and coming directly to my yard. When it runs out of the gutters, it runs down the slope and then down into my yard. And then when the house was remodeled on the other side of me, they did the same thing with the drain. So I'm getting water coming in from both sides of the house. And it's just, I almost can't walk out my front door when it rains pretty hard. Now, that was one of the issues about the storm drains. I'm applauding, I'm happy that the city is beginning to work on the project of getting these streets and the drainage covered. And I'm patient, I can wait till it get to me, but then I just want to know, how were you prioritizing the streets for getting the work done?
I would think that, originally, we looked at projects that we could do quickly for the least amount of money. But with something like this, are you on the north end of,
Lincoln Street?
It's on the list, hers on the list.
Okay.
Yeah, mine is on the list.
Did you have the drainage?
I did have a
in your
drainage
yard?
there, but they moved it, they closed it off.
Okay, I got you.
You know, I think maybe you're getting confused. Now, this Inman Street, at that time, Inman Street was not even there. What's being done now is where they did that new division of the projects. And this developed after people moved, see, just recently. See, this Inman Street project, this wasn't something that was a part of that because it did not exist at that time.
Oh, okay.
So you see, this isn't a part. This was something that came about a most recent problem.
So all the other problems that people were having on their streets, they haven't started
No,
that project yet?
this was just a new, Inman Street was just, that subdivision was just put in that new projects, off Palmer Street. And this came as a result of Ms. Willingham saw people have just moved into. This is a recent thing, this isn't
Okay.
an old problem, this is a brand new
Well,
one.
we're looking at,
But I know hers is on the list because
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
the
hers
sun
is.
came down, they went out and
Yeah,
we
hers is
talked to
on
her
there.
and she's on that list, but like you said, we was doing them according to prices, but I know yours is on the list because you
Well-
actually talked to them.
On the original list,
Yeah.
this was something that developed
Recently.
since then.
well, we look at it from time to time, basically when the money starts building up. And so we will bring the list out, we'll get the city manager to bring us the list, and we'll see if we can make any kind of suggestions as far as what we can do next with the money that we have.
Yeah, coming in. Okay, and the next thing that's on the list is, next month would be the time for Greater House of Worship to come back for an extension. We're supposed to report next month. And I just want to know if we're gonna be on the agenda, and have that agenda been set up yet for next month? Okay, so I could be here to make a report, that's why I'm asking.
Ms. Hicks, you went through the planning commission, is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, well, you would need to get in touch with, the planning commission, Charles Kelly, the building and zoning office back here, and get on the agenda for the planning commission, and they would make a recommendation to the city council.
Okay, cause I know I made a report last year in June, and he just told me to come to the city council, cause, you know, then they would be here to continue to make their, decision about whether to keep on extending it or what. So, I will get in touch with them again, and, so that we can get on the agenda,
Okay.
okay?
If you'll see me after the meeting and give me your contact information,
Okay.
I'll get in touch with you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One final item, Bennett, you have a plaque there of some sort.
I do, I sat down with Councilman Lawrence so he can set it up on the end down there. Mr. White can get a better shot of that. That's an award that, the city of Camilla City Council received. It's, excellent in site reuse. It was given to the council back in April. And I've got a letter here I was gonna read. It's addressed to Mayor Twitty. It says, "Dear Mayor Twitty," and this is from the United States Environmental Protection Agency, which I usually don't particularly like to get letters from them, but in this case, it was a good letter. "Dear Mayor Twitty, as Director of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Region 4 Superfund Division, it gives me great pleasure to present to the City of Camilla the Excellence in Site Reuse Award. EPA is presenting the City of Camilla this award in recognition of its efforts in redeveloping the Camilla Wood Preserving Superfund site in a manner which enhanced EPA's selected remedy and resulted in the development of a valuable resource for the surrounding community and the city as a whole. The City of Camilla made the decision early on to view the Camilla Wood Preserving site as a potential resource for the community and made the necessary investments to acquire and develop the property into an integral part of the city's infrastructure. The City of Camilla and Mitchell County worked collaboratively to establish soccer fields and a recreational center on the site which benefits all the citizens of Camilla and enhance the long-term maintenance of the implemented remedy. EPA looks forward to working with the City of Camilla in the construction of an expanded stormwater retention basin and additional recreation areas as we complete the cleanup of the site. EPA supports the redevelopment of contaminated properties and views the revitalization of communities affected by contaminated properties as a key component of its mission to protect human health and the environment. Region 4 created the Excellence in Site Reuse Award to recognize those who have gone above and beyond in redeveloping a Superfund site. The City of Camilla has certainly demonstrated this at the Camilla Wood Preserving site. Thank you for your efforts. Sincerely, Franklin E. Hill, Director of the Superfund Division. And if I recall correctly, this is the 7th award that's been given by EPA to a city that has been involved in a Superfund site, and certainly at that site out there. They were very, you could tell when they presented this award that they were very proud of what's been done out there. And I think hopefully the citizens of Camilla and Mitchell County can be too. On a related note, I talked with one of their engineers actually this afternoon, and they will be starting their phase 2 project, which is mentioned in this letter, with the construction of the expanded stormwater retention basin sometime in November now, is what they're looking at from the timeline.
Well, that's going to increase our retention basin by what, 1.5 times?
It will triple it.
Triple it.
So hopefully, some of the stormwater issues that have been as we've been experiencing in that part of town will be corrected by this.
Well, it's always good to be recognized for forward thinking, and the city through the years has done that. And, this is just one more example that, we've turned an eyesore into something that's positive and, is an asset to the community at large, the entire community. So, we appreciate the award from, EPA. Do we have any other comments or any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand.